just looking at an IMF report released at the start of this week, pegging down forecasts for global growth. We've got Botswana being seen to grow 6% this year and 6.6% next year. So pretty buoyant economic growth that's being anticipated there. What are we looking at when it comes to market activity in that context? As I said earlier, volumes were pretty thin yesterday.
Well, we are actually looking forward to one or two very interesting years. I believe that the market will benefit a lot from the economic growth. We have already seen, for example, we are working on a listing of a new company. This is the first one this year, and we expect one or two other listings to come probably this year. So we are indeed hopeful that the economic growth will also reflect something on the market as well.
Let's go into that new listing that's being anticipated. It's within the property space. Letlohle Larona seeing its IPO this week with the closing date set for the 26th of May. It's a property fund, so run us through the kind of response it's received so far.
Well, what happens is that it's very common in the Botswana market that you will actually put an offer, you'll actually open an offer, but not really get much responses until probably it's been out for a week or two. And what happens is that we also haven't actually published our research report on it, but it should be out today. And usually it is only after the research report has been out there for a week or two that you will start seeing now responses from it. So basically, up to now, we haven't really gotten much except questions. People are asking, what is it? What can it do for me? But in terms of subscriptions yet, we haven't seen anything yet because it's quite common in the market that people wait, especially for the report to come out as well.
So on a fundamental basis then, just what's some of the kind of response that you've been giving the market that has all these questions?
Well, what we see is that people are very interested in the property sector, and the other thing is the history of this property fund is that the property used to be owned by a government-owned enterprise. Now, people are very much attracted to this government-owned enterprise. It's actually divesting from some of these mature investments, and so people are looking forward to owning this. So yes, people are indeed interested in following it with keen interest. Indeed, this company divested, the company which used to own these properties, which is BDC, is actually divested from another company before, and the offer was reasonably subscribed for.
Let's take a look at another company within that property space. We had results released from RDCP, which is a real estate development company in the country. Overall impressions of the numbers that were released there?
Well, the numbers were actually good. I mean, continuing earnings were good. We saw earnings from continuing operations up 5.9% to 31.5 million. And the other thing is the company is also benefited from, it held 50% in a company in Madagascar, which actually disposed of a property. If you recall, Madagascar, particularly Antananarivo, has had political difficulties in the past 2-3 years, and so the group thought it was best to actually get rid of that property. So that contributed to the earnings for this year. Also, they had some consulting fees which contributed to the discontinuing earnings, and so the distribution was very well. The earnings were very good overall, but the distribution was extremely good due to those non-continuing operations.
On the local front, outline for us, Mothibi, the kind of operating environment we're looking at here, because we seem to see some ramp up in activity when it comes to the commercial space, so retail and office space in particular, but that residential sector is still looking lackluster at this stage.
Well, what's happening is that we see the Botswana market is coming up at a very interesting and probably very rapid phase. While we don't have fear of overcapacity in the next 3 to 5 years, we are seeing so many developments. Nobody can really be sure of how things will be like beyond 5 years. We're seeing so many developments. They are getting more interesting in terms of the quality of the properties and the standards of the properties. If I can give you an example, one company that we're just talking about, RDCP, they're just developing the Master Center, which has got one of the standards in this building is that every room has got to have a water sprinkling system. This is a higher standard versus Botswana standards, which say every floor. But in this So this is just one of the developments that are happening in the commercial side. We've seen so much new space coming up, but the quality of the space is also improving.
Why the kind of pressure we're seeing on the residential space before we go? Because what we've been hearing on this end is banks are certainly not shying away from that mortgage space despite the high level of indebtedness we are seeing in the country.
Yes, banks are not shying away from the residential space, but the problem is they restrict themselves only to cities, the major cities being Gaborone and Francistown, and probably one or two major villages which are upcoming. The reason being that in some of these, in the villages, what happens is that the market is not so deep, and so it's not easy for them to get rid of properties when in the event that they have to foreclose. It's not easy for them to actually get rid of properties quickly without losing value. So they try to restrict themselves to cities, and there is actually a shortage of residential properties, in fact, if I may say, but the banks are actually very much open to financing those.